completely. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the live question and answer session with Code the Dream. We're happy to have you all on the call tonight. My name is Mary Alice Moore. I'm the class coordinator, so I kind of operate the way a registrar's office does in a school. So I handle answering questions from everything from the application through enrolling for the classes, through what do you do when you're getting ready to graduate out of the classes. Also on the call with me tonight is Lori Kamala, and I will let her introduce herself. Go ahead, Lori.
Hi, everyone. I am Lori Kamala. As Mary Alice said, I am located here in Carborough, North Carolina, which is kind of close to Durham, where our main headquarters is. And I've worked with Code the Dream for about 4 years now, and I am the program director, which means I do a little bit of everything. I get to work some with our students, with our apprentices, some on our Code the Dream lab side with some projects, and get to do a lot with our classes also. So great to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Lori. Okay, so for those of you joining us tonight, we are recording the session. We'll be sending it out to anybody who has applied for the program. So that way, if you have to jump off the call early, if you join us late, you'll be able to fill in any missing gaps or pieces. If you need or want to look back over the information we shared tonight, then you'll be able to access the recording and do that way as well. If you have any questions, we'll have a section of question and answer at the end. We're going to just kind of go through some information about our organization first and sort of the most frequently asked questions we get in these sessions. So that way, hopefully we'll get your questions answered through the first, 15-ish minutes as we present through information. And then anything that we don't cover on or anything that you need to hear again, feel free to ask those questions at the end. All right, well, let's go ahead and dive right in. So first, who is Code the Dream? Our mission statement is to create opportunities that change lives, build technology that benefit our communities, and support the diversity that drives a more just and innovative world. That's a lot of missions to accomplish, but we do the best to be able to meet all of those. We do this through the sort of three-pronged approach. We have these opportunities available for students. So the classes that you are or already have applied for, that you're getting information on through this Q&A, are those opportunities for people to be able to take free classes in web development and start to kind of learn the trade, get your feet wet, and get yourself in a position to get into an entry-level position as a web developer. Throughout our program, both the clients and projects that we take on our development shop side of our organization, as well as the students that we're accepting into our program, we look for supporting diversity because that can really drive innovation. If you have all the same people with all the same background, you're not going to get any clever, creative, unique points of view for problem-solving strategies. So we definitely want to support diversity both in classes and outside of classes. And as I had mentioned, we diversify in our development shop side of our organization that's building product for real clients by the clients that we take on, but also by building tech for specific clients that are creating product that will help benefit our community. Lori, did you want to mention a couple of things related to the products that we're building on development shop side so people have an idea of what we do there?
Sure. Yeah, so like Mary Alice said, we do have sort of a two arms to our program. We have our class side, and then we have our in-house nonprofit software development shop. Those some of the really cool projects that our apprentices are working on in CTD labs include things like Vamos, which is a farm worker outreach app. It's a tool that is developed specifically for organizations working with migrant and seasonal farm workers. We also have a really cool state legislative tracking app called Upstate. It's was built to track state legislation in the North Carolina General Assembly, and it is really the best app out there for that, and just does some really amazing things, tracking different legislative issues by keyword, tracking changes in bills, and even being able to track when issues come up in committee hearings. And these apps are all being built directly by apprentices who have come through Code the Dream classes and have entered into our apprenticeship program.
Awesome. Thanks, Lori. All right. So what does your path look like? We always like to give sort of a preview as far as what that participant path is going to look like for you. Most of you are here because you either already have applied or you're thinking about applying and trying to decide if it's right for you. So the path looks like this. You start out with your online application. That's the first step. Applying to our classes, we're going to go more in depth on in a little bit as far as what all of the bits and pieces of the application process and the pre-work process are. So we'll cover those 1 and 2. That second point, pre-work, is sort of the screening process. It's a way to be able to find out what applicants are best suited for our program. We do have a different model. It's not sort of like a traditional community college or educational institution where you have structured lectures and specific times and places you have to be and things of that nature. We work with our students in our program to be able to adapt and accommodate to their needs, because you're usually juggling working an existing job in another field as well as taking care of family and the million other things that happen in life. So we do the online application pre-work screening. And then after the pre-work, we send out offers to people that we think are best suited for the program. That will be either into an intro to programming level class, which is the entry level class if you're new to development and inexperienced in a lot of development technologies, or there's the advanced classes. So if you've already kind of gotten your feet wet in a lot of areas and you're ready to take on something that's a little bit closer to that internship entry level position kind of level, then the advanced classes are covered in React.js, Node.js and Express, and Ruby on Rails. At the end of an advanced class, then students can do a practicum. This is where you get sort of a practice real world experience. So you'll work in a small group to experience what team development's like and get used to having multiple people working on the same code base, because in a development shop, that's what's going to happen. You'll have many people building a product. So it's a way to be able to get comfortable with all the tools of the trade in that area. After practicum, you're welcome to either apply for the paid apprenticeship or you can start your career, start looking for those internships and entry-level positions. So I just wanted to give a visual and kind of explain what that participant path looks like for most students. So let's talk about the spring 2024 classes, because that's most likely what most of you are here to talk about. Obviously, our open application allows you to apply for any trimester that's going to work best for you. So maybe you're currently taking classes right now and you're not going to have a good break from overwhelming your brain with education until summer or fall of 2024. That's fine. You can apply now for those trimesters as well too, if you'd like to. But our next class coming up, where we will be closing applications for the spring 2024 period on October 8th. It helps if I have my calendar to the right month. Yes, this Sunday, October 8th. These will be the classes for those spring 2024 classes. So we're offering an intro class, Haumea. That class start date is going to be January 24th. It'll run until May 31st. The advanced classes are Giraffe and Grackle. That's in Node.js Express and React.js. They will start on February 21st together at the same time, and then they will end, including the practicum portion, will end September 24th, 2024. So that just kind of gives you a visual of what those spring offerings are like and lets you know what class type they are, their start and end dates, and sort of specifically what you'll be learning in there. All right, so the most common questions we get are, what do we need for the class? So I'd like to talk a little bit now about general class requirements. Usually applicants are asking, what do I need to know before I start the class? Do I need to have taken other computer classes or anything like that? So for the intro to programming level, it's helpful to have exposure to basic programming concepts, but you don't have to be, fluent in JavaScript. You don't need to, know all of the ins and outs and details of HTML or CSS. We're going to teach all of that in the intro class. It's helpful to have familiarity with computer basics as well too. So be comfortable with finding files on your computer, organizing files on your computer. If you've looked at or aren't too terribly intimidated by command line, you'll be learning that and using that in the intro class. But otherwise, you're not really required to know any of this. It's okay if you know absolutely zero JavaScript syntax, that's fine. The pre-work assignment will kind of let you see a little bit of that and kind of preview that as you're working through your pre-work assignment. And then the class will cover everything that you learn in your pre-work assignment and then some. For the advanced classes, Node, Express, and React, the previous experience is going to be JavaScript. So you're definitely going to want to know JavaScript, whether you're doing Node and Express or React. And you'll also want to be familiar with GitHub, how to use repositories in GitHub, as well as APIs. So having a general understanding of how they work as far as how information gets passed from one area to another, and how you can use bits and pieces of that. All right, digging a little bit further into those general class requirements beyond, what should you come in knowing? A lot of people ask, what are the tools that I'm going to need for class? Because we are a free program. We aren't able to provide individual computers to every student. That's just outside our purview right now. So you do need to come to class with either a simple basic computer, preferable, like a simple basic computer is preferable over a hybrid tablet like a Chromebook. So it's great to have a tablet, but you need a little more oomph than that for the kind of code that you'll be writing in intro. So just a simple basic, it doesn't have to be modern, it doesn't have to be new, it just has to work for you. And a reliable internet connection, because all of your lesson materials are going to be internet based. That's how you're going to be able to gather your information and look at everything. For the advanced classes, Node, Express, and React, which are offered in spring. And then if you're interested in the Ruby on Rails in the summer 2024 or beyond, then you'll definitely want a reliable computer with sufficient random access memory. You can take a look at codethedream.org/classes. We have a huge frequently asked questions section in there. You can take a look specifically at the what kind of computer and software do I need, and that'll help you give a good idea as far as is the current equipment you have enough for the advanced classes. And then, of course, reliable internet access for the advanced classes as well, too, since it's an online course.
Mary Alice, can I
Absolutely. Chime in.
a question here that is relevant to actually, I guess, the previous slide. Natalia is asking, how deep of knowledge of JavaScript does someone need for advanced classes? And I don't know if you can get into that a little bit deeper, or if you want to save that for later.
Yeah, so you definitely want to have a strong foundation in JavaScript basics. You don't have to be at an intermediate or advanced level, I would say, but you definitely need to be comfortable at a basics level. A good sort of test of how comfortable are you with it would be to try like some W3 school tutorials and see how that goes. If you've already filled out your application and you're looking at those pre-work links that you get emailed after you complete your application, then I would take a look at the advanced pre-work first and see, do I feel comfortable with this? If you do feel comfortable with the level of JavaScript you need for that pre-work assignment, you're probably good to go for the advanced classes. If it feels a little bit too much for you as far as like handling async and await or dealing with promises, things of that nature, then you may want to look more at the intro level. Hopefully that helps, Natalia, but please keep questions coming if you need further clarification, or we can also chat through email or anything, or chat through questions at the end.
One more question, Mary Alice. I answered it in the chat, but it would be good to answer it live as well. Dinar asks, is it possible to take advanced classes after taking Intro to Programming class?
Absolutely. That is our hope and expectation, is that intro students will graduate on to any advanced classes of their choosing. The intro class by itself isn't really sufficient to get you into an internship or entry-level position as a developer. It really just covers JavaScript fundamentals, basics, and HTML, CSS, and touches on APIs. So you really need to learn those frameworks and tech stacks that are used at a more advanced level for building product in one of the advanced classes to be able to handle that. Yeah.
There's another question coming in about pre-work. Do you want to hold off until we get deeper into pre-work?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
We'll get back to you, Hannah.
We'll get back to your question. Yeah. All right. So we talked a little bit about the education or knowledge you need coming in, the tools that you need coming in. So any other sort of general requirements is just a commitment to work through challenging lessons. Like, development is not for the faint of heart. It can definitely be some days where it feels like a huge struggle and you're just like, oh, did I really decide this for myself? But then as soon as you get through those blockers, as soon as you figure out, oh, that's why my code wasn't working, you have this huge light bulb moment, and it's really fulfilling, especially for people who love puzzles, loves kind of problem solving or figuring things out. If you enjoy any kind of like design work or making something that's more user friendly. So if you've used an application, you're like, why did they put that there? Or why does this work this way? This is ridiculous. It should be this way. Then these classes will be perfect for you. So commitment to work through challenging lessons, and then time. All of our classes typically are about 15 to 20 hours of classwork a week on average. So just be sure that you're making sure in your personal schedule and your professional schedule that you have enough wiggle room to be able to tackle your class lesson information. So hopefully that covers information about general class requirements. Lori, does there feel like there's anything I'm forgetting regarding that?
I guess I would just could add that in terms of this commitment and the time commitment, it really is important, like Mary Alice is emphasizing. And I will say that in most of the students that are not able to be successful in the class, they have often not been able to commit the time. I think sometimes people may think, oh, well, I know a little bit or whatever. It's not going to take me that long. I can fit it in. But you really do need to be prepared to devote the time. And if you are able to devote the time and the focus, because that's the other thing, it's very hard when you're coding. You really need a very focused environment with very few distractions. If you are able to achieve that, you'll have a much higher success or chance of having success in the class. We have a couple other questions in the chat about the duration of the class, if they are live or pre-recorded, and the timings of the class.
Yeah, absolutely. So the duration of the classes starting in 2024, all of our classes, intro or advanced, are going to be 18-week-long courses. The practicum portion following the advanced classes are going to be about 8 to 10 weeks period. So it winds up being about 6 or 7 months for an advanced class and about 4 months for the intro class. It's helpful if you have an end game in mind, as far as, oh, I know I want to take intro and then I know I want to take React, or whatever your situation is. Take a look at the trimesters, because that'll give you a good idea of, okay, I'm going to take intro in spring, I'll take advanced class in summer. We do have our class schedules on this trimester schedule, so that way when you complete one class in spring, you have a little bit of a breather, and then you can take the next classes in the next trimester and not lose any traction. So hopefully that helped answer those questions. As far
Are
as
you going to go into the when class, what the timings of classes in terms of?
yeah. So class timings are pretty flexible. There are 2 styles of sessions that you attend in the classes. One is a little bit more instructional based, and it's a group call, just like we're on right now. So it'd be several people on a call together with an instructor, and they really help kind of outline and big picture the lesson for the week for you, as well as answer any questions that you've run into as you cover lesson materials or as you work through your coding assignment. But then we also have several volunteers with each class where you can set up a one-on-one appointment with them. And it can be anywhere from like 15 minutes to half an hour or longer, where you're touching base with an individual. It's just you and them, and you can work together on the code that you're working on, or help work through any parts that you're struggling with. The one-on-one sessions are really quite flexible. We've had volunteers available as early as, morning times Eastern time zone, evening times Pacific time zone, and everything in between. The group sessions typically are going to be weekday evenings or weekends, to be able to sort of accommodate most of the availability that most folks have.
There's a couple other questions coming through. I was starting to reply in the chat, but I think it might be faster to reply live. Do you want to, what's the next section?
Yeah, next section is next steps. So it's kind of working through the application process and then diving into some more class information.
Okay, should we go into a few more details about the classes, like how many advanced classes can you take at a time now, or do you want to do that a little later?
Sure, absolutely. Now is fine. So for the advanced classes, typically we encourage you to just take one class at a time, because they are that 15 to 20 hour of work commitment every week. So if you're working full time and then you're also taking a class that's 15 to 20 hours, that's 60 hours of your week every week that is, to your full-time job and to your class. And you got to have time for you too, in order to have this be sustainable and for you to be able to make it through without completely burning out. So typically taking one class at a time is best. But if you are pretty solid with your JavaScript skills and you're wanting to take Node and React at the same time, and you have the time to be able to commit 40 hours a week to classwork, then you can take both of those together. You would just get in touch with me after you've received your offer letter and say, hey, I also want to take this other class, and then I can get you set up for that. There were some other questions too about how many students for each class will be accepted. I do have a slide on that as far as what we're looking at, so we'll cover that in a little bit. Yeah, there was a question about selection too, so that'll be covered with that slide.
And then another, just to follow up on the one about the number of classes you can take at a time, how many synchronous classes are there and how are they scheduled? So getting back into
so the intro class always starts about 3 to 4 weeks before the advanced classes start. As we get to the class information, well, actually back on the previous slide, January 24th, I think, was the start date for the intro class, and then the advanced classes start in February. So you have about a month gap between when intro starts and when advanced classes start. All of the advanced classes start at the same time. So you'll be starting and ending advanced classes if you're taking multiple advanced classes at the same time. Hopefully that gets to the root of the question as far as synchronous classes are there. For spring, we just have the Node and React class that we're offering. For summer 2024, we'll be offering Node, React, and Ruby on Rails. You cannot take all three at the same time, and you wouldn't want to anyway. That is a whole lot of work, and Ruby on Rails is a separate programming language from React and Node. So that's not really an option to take all three of them at the same time. I think that covers that. So
there is, for a student who completed the intro class, is the pre-work for the advanced classes still required to get into advanced classes?
It depends on when you completed your intro class. So if it's been more than a year since we've seen your intro work, or if you never completed your intro work, like if you turned in your final project and it wasn't approved for advancement, then you will need to do the pre-work for the advanced class again. Hopefully that answered that question for you, son. Let's see here.
But just to add to that, for current students who are in a class, in the intro class, there is a more direct path. You do not have to complete the pre-work.
Exactly. So if anybody on the call is an existing student with our program, you do not need to do this application process at all. Like the work that you're doing in the class that you're with us right now, that's what's going to approve you for those spring classes. So hopefully that's clear. All right. I'm going to keep on with the slides then, and we'll keep answering questions in the chat as we go. And I think the slides will also help answer a lot of questions too. So next steps is to add classes at codethedream.org to your contacts list in your email so that we won't accidentally get kicked to trash or spam. But if you're expecting an email from us, whether it's the pre-work information after you've submitted your application, or whether it's a confirmation email that we received your pre-work, or it's information about whether or not you're in the class, definitely check your trash and spam folders, just because we're usually emailing everybody that gets accepted at the same time, or we're emailing, groups of people who applied. So definitely check trash and spam if you're expecting an email and you don't see it in your inbox. So on October 8th or before, be sure to complete the application, which comes after the application request. I do want to give a visual on that to some folks in case you are completely new and have not yet applied. So you can find information about our classes on codethedream.org/classes, and that lets you know as far as if you want to start classes in that time frame, when the application deadline is, when your pre-work deadline is. Details about classes are listed below as far as what's being offered, what term. And then here's this huge frequently asked questions section that we were talking about that you can always take a look at. So what and when are trimesters, who can apply, all of that good information's in there. And then the application process here also will give you a nice outline as far as what to do. So the first step is you'll request an application, then you'll complete the application, you'll complete a pre-work assignment, and then watch for results. So when you go to the application process page, or when you go to the apply now page, when you feel like, yeah, this is the right program for me, I'm going to go ahead and apply. There'll be a short little video explaining that process of requesting an application, completing the application, and then doing and turning in the pre-work. So watch that video. It's really short. I promise it's easy to do. There's information for each individual trimester as far as what classes are offered, when those start dates are, when you need to get your application pre-work in, when you'll receive results. And then down here is the form that you'll use to request an application. So this is part one. You just fill out your name, email, address, And the reason we have this in here is to screen for email address, because we usually get tons of like typo email addresses. So this step helps us make sure that we have the correct email address to communicate with you about the next steps of your application process. So you fill that out and you'll get an email right away after you submit it, saying, here's the link to your application. Go ahead and complete your application form. And that's where we ask for more details. The reason we're asking for a lot of demographic details is because since we're a nonprofit, then we are grant funded. And so sometimes grants want to make sure that we're reaching the populations that we need and want to reach as far as people that are underrepresented in tech. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to explain or add to that at all, Lori, for why we ask for so much information on the application process.
Sorry, just unmuting. Yeah, we have a pretty thorough application that does ask a fair number of demographic questions. This is really helpful for us. Our mission at Code the Dream is to really serve low-income students, immigrant students from underrepresented backgrounds to get more folks into tech. It doesn't mean that those things are going to qualify you or not to enter our class, but it does mean we just want to be able to know for reporting purposes, who are we serving? That information is never connected to your name in any way, but it just helps us be able to evaluate our program so that we are able to know who we're serving.
Awesome. Thanks, Lori. You explained that way better than I ever could. All right. So complete the application. After the application request, pre-work instructions will be emailed to you once we receive your application. Read the instructions very carefully. They are multi-part, so read through the whole thing start to finish. Make sure you have a clear picture of what's going on. Both the advanced and the intro level, I think, are broken into either 2 or 3 parts. So make sure you're looking through that whole piece of information. For the intro applicants, we do have a video at the top of your instruction page that helps outline everything briefly for you. We don't have that for the advanced class yet. So like I said, take a look at that page and read through all the information as best as you can beforehand. And then the pre-work will be due October 22nd or before. So if you get it done early, that's great. You can go ahead and submit it, but you need to have it in by October 22nd. So that way we can evaluate things and get information out in time. Notifications for whether or not you were accepted. We do not ghost people here. So if you don't get in, we'll let you know of other resources that you can lean on to help make your developer dreams come true. And if you do get accepted, you'll get more information about classes and how to register. So check your email on December 5th. That's where you'll get your results about whether or not you've been accepted. All right, so let's dig into this pre-work information, because I know a lot of you are like, pre-work, what is this? Let's get more details on it. All right, so the pre-work information, once you've completed your application, you're going to get the pre-work instructions by email. If you applied for intro first as your primary choice for what you're most interested in, then you'll get directly to those intro instructions. If you applied for advanced, then you'll get into the advanced instructions. If you get the advanced instructions and you're like, whoa, this is more than I can handle right now, I don't have the knowledge base to be able to complete this assessment well, then that's fine. You can always pivot. There are links in there for you to be able to switch and take a look at the intro work and complete that instead. You can also just take a stab at it and see how you do. If you do fall short with your advanced level work, then we will offer you a seat in intro, saying you're not quite where you need to be for advanced, but you can take the intro class if you would like to. All right. So intro applicants, you're going to have a tutorial that you'll follow for the pre-work assignment. And it's going to mimic what your class experience will be like with us, where there'll be information that you have to read through. There might be little video snippets explaining how things are done or how you write your code a certain way. So you can practice with that. That whole tutorial portion is probably going to take you anywhere from 15 to 20 hours roughly to complete. So give yourself plenty of time to work through that tutorial. And then everything that you learn in the tutorial is where you will put it into put it to use to demonstrate, here's what I was able to learn from that tutorial. You don't need to have all of that tutorial information down solid comfortably, because we're going to cover it all over again in the intro class. We just want to see how you handle the format of the classes as far as working through a tutorial, applying what you learned. So we want to see how well that process goes for you, because we're a different process than a more structured class as far as not being able to meet in person and work side by side on code with you at the same time live. A lot of things are asynchronous. So work through the tutorial, and then you'll demonstrate that knowledge. In the tutorial portion, we don't see your progress. If you've already been exposed to HTML and CSS and you're comfortable with that, if you've already dabbled in JavaScript a little bit, you can jump around to parts in the tutorial that you aren't familiar with to educate yourself on those bits and pieces. If there's a section that you're going through and you're like, yeah, I already know this stuff, that's okay. You can skip over it and go to the parts that you don't know. And it's totally fine to do that. We don't see your progress through the tutorial. You don't send us anything from that tutorial. Your drawing animation in JavaScript is going to be through P5JS library. The instructions show you what that looks like and how to work through it. And then you'll submit that drawing or animation to us. For the advanced applicants, you're going to be building just a simple static website. It doesn't have to be this huge, like multi-page amazing thing. It doesn't need to be built in React. It doesn't need to be built in Vue or Angular. You don't need to know those things ahead of time. You can build just a simple static website. It can be single page or multi-page. It does need to include some kind of navigation. You should put some styling in there. You can either use Bootstrap or you can use just vanilla CSS, creating it all your own. And you'll use an open source API to be able to collect that data and then display that data for your user. So that might look like getting in touch with the weather API. We have, I think, I think it's about 7 APIs that you can choose from on topics like coffee recipes and weather and cats and dogs and Marvel Universe and Star Wars and anything that you could think of. So there's a bunch of things there that you can select from. Do whatever interests you. And you'll just want to make sure that you're gathering that data from the API and displaying it. So for example, if you were to pick Star Wars, then you would want to have a page that shows a list of all of the planets and their information from the Star Wars franchise. And you'd want to have a page that lists all of the characters and what movies they're in or something like that. All of this information is much more detailed in your pre-work assignments. So be sure that you're reading through your pre-work assignment instructions very carefully. A lot of the questions that we get from applicants is, which pre-work do I even do? I'm not sure what class I want to take. So if you're applying for any or all classes and you know what an API is, then attempt the advanced first. If you're looking over the instructions for the advanced pre-work and you're like, this is more than I can do, or I'm not really sure myself, go ahead and just stop. Don't worry about continuing with the advanced pre-work and do the intro pre-work instead. You do not do both pre-works. So you only need to do one, either intro or advanced. You don't need to do both. So just submit the one that is most appropriate for you. If the advanced pre-work assignment you submit isn't where it ought to be as far as skill level, then we'll offer you the intro class. If it is where it ought to be, we'll offer you the advanced class. So just keep that in mind. And then if you're applying for intro only, like if you know, hey, I'm a total beginner, that's totally fine. Then just apply for the intro work, just do the intro pre-work. If you're applying for one or more advanced classes, then take a look at that advanced pre-work information. If you feel comfortable with it, go ahead and do that advanced pre-work and submit that. One thing I want to be sure to note and stress is if an applicant does not submit any pre-work to us at all, then you will not be considered for the classes. We really need you to do the pre-work assignment and submit it so we can see where your skill level is at to place you in the most appropriate class, and or to make sure that the format of our classes is appropriate for you to be able to handle, to be able to get into that intro to level programming. I think that
I'll just add to that, the pre-work is basically step 2 of the application process. Step 1 is what you fill out and what's due on October 8th, which is just basically your information about yourself. That's step 1. Step 2, as Mary Alice said, to be considered for the classes, you must complete that pre-work.
Awesome. Thank you, Lori. All right, so let's dig into some class information now too, because I know there were some questions from earlier on about class information. So all applicants, regardless of what you apply for, regardless of whether or not you're accepted, you'll be notified of the result of your application by December 5th. So check your email on December 5th for results. All of the classes are going to have an orientation 2 weeks before their class start date. So for the intro classes, the week of January 8th, we'll still be determining the day and time. You'll get information as it gets closer to that time frame of when your orientation date will be. For advanced classes, that's going to be the week of February 5th for day and time, to be determined on that still too, but we'll be in touch as far as when your orientation will be. And then for all of the classes, the week before the class officially starts, we provide office hours. So that way you can just make sure that you have all your ducks in a row and you're ready to start class, that you understand where to find your lessons, how to get into them, because learning remotely is hard. So that office hours week is especially helpful for you to kind of get comfortable and get into the groove before you actually have curriculum coming at you. All right. During class, you'll work through lessons and assignments weekly. You'll attend live mentor sessions to get a better understanding of the class curriculum and to get any questions answered. As I had mentioned earlier, those mentor sessions are either going to be group structured and a little more instructional based, or they'll be one-on-one. The schedule varies from class to class, so it won't be until closer to when your classes start that we know for sure what days and times those group sessions will be offered or what ranges we have those one-on-one sessions available, because all of our instructors are volunteers. So it all depends on who's volunteering with the class and what their availability is with the time frame for that class. But in general, your one-on-one sessions are available throughout the week, varying hours, morning, afternoon, evening, and those group sessions typically are going to be weekday evenings or weekends. I think there were some questions that popped up in the chat. I just want to see if there's anything that I need to address while we're talking about class information. And I also need to make sure to get back to Hannah's question if I haven't already answered it.
One good question here, Mary Alice, that I think is worth repeating is, how is it determined who gets into the classes?
Yeah, so the pre-work assignment that you submit, we have a review process. We have multiple groups of individuals that look collectively together at your pre-work assignment and grade it on a scale, just to kind of get an idea of, did you follow the directions for the assignment? Are you meeting all of the minimum requirements that we outlined for you? And then did you throw anything extra in there? It's perfectly fine to just meet requirements. We know, especially for intro applicants, that you're beginners and this is new to you. So as long as you're making sure you're checking the boxes as far as the 4 requirements that you need to have in your pre-work, then you'll be in pretty good shape. If you want to stretch yourself or do something fun or impressive just to make going through a tutorial less boring or anything like that, then definitely have fun with your drawing or animation. Excuse me. Same thing for the advanced classes. Like, as long as you have those requirements met, great. Anything extra you want to do will only make things better. In general, we try and accept as many people as meet requirements as possible. And we are growing our classes. So we've been able to accept more students in this last trimester than we have before, both for the intro and React classes, especially, were of most interest to people. Hopefully that helped cover it. And then I was trying to find Hannah's question in the chat to make sure that we covered it.
Hannah's question was, if someone fails or does not successfully complete the pre-work, are they able to resubmit?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So we are never a one and done kind of organization. If you don't complete a class, you have the opportunity to attempt the class again. If you don't succeed with the pre-work assignment to get you into class, then you can reapply for the next trimester and resubmit your pre-work assignment. Go off of any feedback that you're provided with or any feedback that you ask for on those pre-work assignments. So that way you can make any improvements and get yourself in a better position to be accepted for the next trimester. Hopefully that helped answer that.
And
Okay.
Mary Alice, can you address also what kind of learning tools we're using during the class? Someone mentioned Treehouse or others.
Yeah, so our intro class, we're actually kind of restructuring it a little bit right now. So you're probably most likely going to be using Scrimba as the base, as well as content that we have provided. We also use some Odin project content in our intro class. So those are really going to be the primary sources. We may still have Treehouse around for that spring intro class, so that might still be an option. For the Node class, it's predominantly Free Code Camp based, as well as some of our own content that we've built. And then for the React class, it's going to be predominantly Scrimba based, as well as our own content. I think we will likely still be leaning on the Road to React textbook by Robin Weirick. You don't have to worry about purchasing that textbook. We provide that textbook to you. So hopefully that answers the question as far as, you know, what information is covered with that. Wonderful. Okay, so we talked about orientation, office hours, and then during class. So let me go ahead and move on to our next slide.
There's one more question, Mary Alice, here. Will the Khan Academy tutorials be enough to complete the advanced pre-work? And does Code the Dream provide links for self-study to help with the advanced pre-work?
Yeah, so the Khan Academy tutorials will not be sufficient for doing the advanced pre-work. Khan Academy tutorials are just for intro. There are links provided in the advanced pre-work instructions that help you with specific areas of it. So if you need a little sort of refresher or reminder on a lot of JavaScript syntax or structure, how to use it, then we do have resources there for refreshing your memory on JavaScript fundamentals. If you need any assistance with understanding API usage or AJAX calls or anything like that, then we do have links for resources to be able to take a look at that information as well. Khan Academy probably will, unless you just want a fun way to be able to look back at JavaScript and kind of refresh your memory on JavaScript concepts, then Khan Academy probably will not be sufficient for helping with advanced classes. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to hit some of the frequently asked questions that we get too. And I know some of these have come up in the chat already, so we'll just cover them again, just in case. How many people get in? So for intro, it varies. Our latest class had 96 students in it. And so we hope to and plan to accept as many people as meet requirements on the pre-work. So it's really important that you take a look at that pre-work requirements list and make sure that your code is incorporating everything. For the advanced class, this can also vary. We're trying to accept as many applicants as has acceptable pre-work. Our React class was the largest it's been, and I think we have about 70 students in it right now.
We'll just say, Mary Alice, I think we have been able, we want to meet the need, but it is not guaranteed. It is really dependent on, our program is heavily dependent on volunteers. We have many amazing staff members that work on our classes, but we also have an incredible amount of volunteers that help to run our program. So there's a lot dependent on, do we have enough volunteers? So it is possible that we will not have enough space for everyone, even if you do meet the requirements. But we don't want to discourage anybody, and we want you to apply again and all of the things. So, I think we should be clear that while we want to accept everyone, it's definitely not a guaranteed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Lori. Yeah, to give you an idea of how much volunteer work is involved, I think over the last calendar year, Reed's data said we had over 200 volunteers, and it was over 10,000 hours that those volunteers put in to these classes to be able to help students progress through the class, answer questions, and support them in their learning. So it's no small undertaking. All right. What happens after class? A lot of students ask that. So after intro, you're encouraged to take an advanced class. You get to choose what advanced class or classes you'd like to take at the end of intro. We do have meetings about 2/3 of the way through intro and advanced classes to talk more in depth about your next steps. So that way it's not just boom, end of class. What do you want to do? So we prepare you about a month and a half or so before class ends. We start that conversation of, okay, let's be thinking about where we're going next because we're getting to the end of this chapter. For the advanced class, practicum is encouraged for all students to take at the end of their advanced class. And then after practicum, then you can either apply for the apprenticeship if you're interested and if it's applicable to you. You can start applying for intern or junior developer jobs if you feel ready for that. Or you can take another advanced class or take another practicum if you feel like you just need to build your confidence or build your technical skill before getting ready to start applying for jobs. Everybody always asks, what do we look for in applicants? Drive is a big thing. So these classes aren't for people who are just wanting to do a side hustle that's in the tech industry, or if you just want to have a hobby, or if you're kind of curious about what it's like to build an app or things like that. It really is a first step to becoming a developer within a year or two's time. Other questions that we often get is, what's the cost? $0. We have grants and a development shop as part of our organization. That's what allows us to be able to provide these classes completely free to students. The only expense you'll incur is you just need to make sure that you have yourself a computer. So if you already have a computer that meets the needs for being able to complete the classes, if you already have the internet connection, then you're good to go. So those are sort of the only personal expenses that you would incur working on these classes.
I will say there is another significant expense that you incur, and that is your time. And your your family may suffer from not having you as available. So again, we know that everybody's time is very valuable, and we know that it is an investment for you into your career, and it's also our investment in you as well. So that we do expect our students to take it very seriously.
Yeah, 100%. And then we do ask, but we don't require that when you graduate or you get that developer job or you're in that internship to either donate back time as a mentor or a volunteer to help other students who are following in your footsteps, or if your income is such in those entry-level positions that you want to kick some funds back to help other students follow in your footsteps, then that's always welcome. But nothing of that is required. It's just encouraged. And most of our students do want to give back in some way, shape, or form. And then which classes should you apply for? You can always check out codethedream.org/classes-checklist site. And that helps you kind of gauge as far as what class you might be most interested in, what might appeal to you the best, where your skill level is at to be able to meet that class. And then taking a look at that frequently asked questions section of the classes page also is good. Excuse me. That hits most of the frequently asked questions that we have. So I'd really like to open it up for any question and answer. I know we've had several in the chat pop up. So there were some questions about the internships. They are remote. The classes are completely remote. We do have opportunities for in-person events at times. So you can definitely take a look to see if there is an in-person event in your area that you'd like to participate in. But in general, everything is remote, so you don't have to worry about getting yourself physically to any place. Oh, yeah, that's a great question from Dinar as far as successful enrollment in the apprenticeship. You do not need to complete all 4 classes we offer to be able to be applicable for the apprenticeship. We do encourage you to take or test out of through your pre-work the intro class. So if you're coming in at the advanced level, take the advanced class and a practicum, and that'll get you in better shape to be able to apply for the apprenticeship. Other questions that I haven't answered verbally that we covered in the chat that I should cover, Lori?
Well, just to go into a little bit more depth on that other one, I did mention certain qualified students can apply directly to the apprenticeship, though at this moment we are not open to external apprentices at this time. It is something that students can, or interested applicants can check on. However, the best path to the apprenticeship and to a job, we believe, is really continuing through, you know, whether it's starting an intro or starting an advanced, like Mary Alice said, just going directly through the program, intro, advanced, and the practicum will set you up really well. And then you can, after the practicum, you can choose to take another advanced class, or, you know, continue on studying, or, you know, go and look for a job at that time. Let's see. Yes, absolutely. Someone has asked, are the things that we ask in the application, are they kept private? Absolutely. This is your application information is confidential information. That is not information we share or attach to your name in any way. I want to encourage, I think that we've gone through most of the questions in the chat, but I would encourage anyone who has not had their question answered to please repeat it, because at this point I'm not able to go back and see everything that we have gone through. Mary Alice, there is a question: is if it is possible for someone to review the pre-work.
Ooh, I don't know what availability looks like for having staff members be able to review pre-work before your deadline. You're welcome to email it to the classes at codethedream.org email. And if there's time and availability to be able to check it over and just let you know, yes, you're meeting requirements and you're probably in pretty good shape. Obviously, a review isn't going to give you a definite, yeah, you're accepted or no, you're not. But it'll at least give you an idea of if if you're certain that you've met all the requirements and if it puts you in, decent standing as far as the application process, then you're welcome to share that there. I'll pop that.
I will add, Mary Alice is incredibly generous. However, there are hundreds of applicants to our classes, and I think it is not realistic for most folks to be able to have anything reviewed, unfortunately. I think that if you have gone through all of the bullet points and answered all of the, checked all of your boxes for the requirements, I think you are good to submit. I don't think that you probably need to have an additional person review.
One thing I will say is make sure that you check your code as well. Like open up an incognito browser or open up a different browser. So if you're on a Mac, open up Safari or Chrome or whatever, and just go to the address of your pre-work and make sure that it loads properly and that it's doing what you want and expect it to. That's the biggest thing with any kind of developer work, is to be sure that it's doing what you want and expect it to. And if it's not, then you need to kind of troubleshoot and figure out what's happening that's causing it to not work the way you would expect it to.
Just as a reminder, the pre-work is due on October 22nd. Is that right? That's what I wrote in the emails.
Yeah, pre-work deadline is October 22nd. December 5th is when you would find out whether or not you've been accepted. We do take several weeks because, as Lori had said, I think we've got like over 350 applicants right now. Usually about half of those folks submit pre-work. So we're talking 175-ish pre-work assignments that our staff have to go through and assess. So it takes several weeks for us to be able to go through those pre-work submissions that people send in. That's why the feedback won't be coming back to you until December 5th, to give plenty of time for us to be able to take a look at your work.
Two really great questions just came in, Mary Alice. Any chance we could see a successful example demo of advanced pre-work? I don't know if there's anything that we can share.
Let me,
and maybe we could do an intro one as well, maybe if you
yeah, for the advanced ones, I don't know that I can without getting the applicant or the student's permission on it, but there is an intro one that I can show.
Great question. It's something that we can work towards for another future time.
Find.
While you're looking for that, Mary Alice, I can answer the next question. The next question is, what is a typical day of training like? Video lectures, homework, etc. So each, depending on your class and depending on that week's lesson, it's going to be a little bit different, but you will have a site where you go to that has your entire class curriculum and the syllabus. And for that particular week, our lessons are week by week. So that particular week, you'll look on, you'll get a Slack message. We use Slack for all of our internal communications. You'll get a message that is reminding you of what your lesson is for that week and what your assignment is. You will have a number of videos that you will probably be watching on your own. Then yeah, you'll probably have a number of videos you'll watch on your own and a few articles you'll be reading on your own. And then you will choose which mentor sessions you'll be going to that week. You'll go to those sessions live with other students and with an experienced mentor who will talk you through that week's material. And yeah, what else am I missing, Mary Alice? And you'll work on your assignment. You'll have a coding assignment. That's the most important thing. And you'll work on your coding assignment. And then you'll also have what we call a mindset assignment that you'll work on, which is really helping you to start thinking like a developer.
Yeah, as Lori was saying, so our structure of our classes is what's called a flipped classroom model. So if you're expecting it to be, attend a lecture and go do a little bit of homework based on what you heard in the lecture and attend a second lecture and do the same kind of a thing where it's probably what most people are more familiar with. It's not that structure. You will need to be a bit of a self-starter with this class. So when your week starts, or even before your week starts, take a look at your lesson materials, start reading through them, start writing down questions of things that you have as you're encountering it, and then bring those questions to your mentor sessions and ask more information about it, get more details beyond what's just in those black and white words on the screen, or beyond those video tutorials that you've worked through, to be able to kind of extend your learning and really have more self-growth within the class. Okay, well, let me show the intro pre-work example real quick. So it's required to have variables declared. It's required to have a conditional. So if something happens, do this amount of code, as well as having a loop. So for X number of times, run this amount of code. And a unique function. So something that you have declared yourself, saying, when I call this particular function, then I want you to run the code associated with that function. So this is a super fun one, and it's a little interactive, where it's got a little dinosaur character. And then when you click the mouse on the image, then it has words appear and it has some animation that happens to it. You aren't required to have animation, but it is more fun if you do it. And it's more fun as you're learning to kind of play around with it and problem solve and work through how to get your animation to work. Everything that you learn in Khan tutorial will teach you how to be able to build this. You just have to reach into your own creativity to come up with it. You can take inspiration from the projects that you built. You can take the projects that you built from Khan Academy and just sort of update them to make sure that you're including the requirements. Because I don't know that all of the projects in Khan Academy include all of the requirements that we require in that pre-work assignment. So that's just a fun little intro one to kind of show you a finished product on that. I did want to show you too, just the pre-work assignments page. So after you've applied, then you'll get information to either the intro to programming or to the advanced programming information. And I just wanted to point out what these look like. So for the intro to programming, there are multiple parts to this process. So read through your general instructions, click on part 1, read through your part 1, click on part 2, read through your part 2, and then read about the submission process for that reminder of make sure you have all of the following in your product that you're building in your project. So definitely be sure to check that out. And then, oops, sorry, let me go back a few steps to our advanced page. And then for the advanced assignment, same thing. It's broken down into parts. So read through general instructions, read through part 1, read through part 2, read through the submission before you even open Khan Academy, before you even start writing your first line of code or create an empty repo on GitHub. Read through your instructions and make sure you're clear on it. All right. Other questions out there that we haven't answered yet? Oh, Lori, you're muted.
Thanks. Sorry, the questions are coming in quickly. So I apologize. I hope I don't miss anything. This is a good question. If someone has knowledge in Python, can they do a pre-work assignment in Python to apply for intro? And then there are multiple questions about, can people apply for both intro and advanced?
I don't think the Python knowledge is going to help you very much in the advanced. It's really going to be necessary for JavaScript, be able to handle those API calls. So even if you're knowledgeable in Python, work through the guides that we have, like the additional resource information, you'll probably be able to catch on well enough and or work through like a JavaScript tutorial to educate yourself on JavaScript well enough to be able to get there. But if not, the intro class will teach you all the JavaScript that you need, and having Python in your back pocket, it'll probably make the intro class a little bit easier for you than most. And then what was the other question, Lori, beyond the Python one?
Applying for both intro and clarifying if you can apply for intro and advanced at the same time.
So the application process, you pick your first choice and you pick your second choice. We take a look at what your first choice is. So it's up to you as far as if you want to kind of go to a safety level and say, I'm going to apply for intro first and then do the intro pre-work and submit that first. But if you have experience in JavaScript, if you are familiar with APIs, what they are, how to use them, then I would say switch that up and apply for advanced first and look at that advanced pre-work and see if you can't attempt that. When in doubt, try and hit for the fence, I think is the baseball idiom that people use. Like try and do the most that you can. And if you fall short, that's okay, because you'll still, have an offer for intro if you fall short of the advanced pre-work.
There's a question about if an application is denied, is there feedback given as to why they were not selected?
So because there are just so many applications in general, then it's hard to give individualized feedback to anybody that's not accepted. I think with our last round, it was probably like 80% of the people who applied and submitted pre-work were accepted. So it's not a huge gap. But if you are interested in wanting to find out further details, then when you get the letter saying, I'm sorry, we're not able to accept you at this time, feel free to reply. We might not be able to get back right away, but we do try and respond to those. So that way you do have something to go off of to make another attempt for the classes again in the next trimester.
And just to be clear, I think that our requirements for the pre-work are pretty clear. So I think it's if you probably will know if you'll be able to say, yes, I am meeting these requirements, or if you're not sure if you have met them or not, then you probably haven't, because they're pretty clear. So that would be the first thing. If you're not meeting those requirements, it's unlikely that you will get into the class, but the requirements are very clearly spelled out.
Yeah.
There was one question earlier that was important that I answered in the chat, but we did not answer live. And that was, do we accept international students?
Yeah, unfortunately, at this time, we aren't able to. We do have some international students back when we were accepting them that are grandfathered in. So if you have already been accepted into our program and are an international student, you will not be kicked out of the program. You are allowed to continue in the program. If you are new to us, unfortunately, we aren't able to accept your application at this time. We discovered in having international students that is a much broader scope than what we're able to meet as far as having resources on the ground available to the different struggles that come with being an international student with internet access or anything along those lines. It can really be an uphill battle, and it's just more than we're capable of accommodating at this time. Hopefully I answered that sufficiently, Lori, but if you have anything to add, please do.
Yeah, I'll just say that unfortunately, we, like Mariella said, we're not able to extend class offers to people who are outside of the United States right now. However, we would like to work towards creating what we're calling an open curriculum, especially for our intro class, that would be accessible by people anywhere in the world. So we hope to have that one day.
And there's a question in the chat about the schedule for the internship. So anybody interested with the end game of apprenticing for Code the Dream Labs as what you have your sights on. The schedule is flexible. It's a full-time position. There are going to be times sort of in that 9 to 5 US time zones range where you'll be required to meet with your project manager, meet with your project team for meetings. So that way you're all on the same page. But there is a little bit of flexibility to that schedule as well, too. Any other questions that we haven't answered or that anybody needs further clarification on while we're on the call still?
I see one I just missed. When applying for a job, work experience is needed on a resume. How does it work after these classes are completed? Is there a certificate that will be listed or on a resume, or internship is required?
That's an excellent question, Dimitri. So we have an interesting situation in the tech industry that it's not like if you're working in the nursing field or working in the legal field where you have like a board certification exam that you have to complete that shows that you're equipped to handle that, just because of the diversity within tech as far as, somebody who knows C# or C++ and then gets into Python, they might not know as much and be able to adapt to Python as quickly. So it can really vary just because of the range of technologies that are out there. There are a lot of companies that offer their own certifications like AWS, Cisco, and for those sort of hardware or program specific certifications, then typically you need to go and take a certification exam with those individuals in that particular specification of security or whatever the hardware is that you want to test in. For our classes, we do offer a certificate of completion, which is different from some kind of certification exam. The certificate of completion basically says that we know that you've put in the hours. These are the topics that you've educated yourself on through our program. So you do get some sort of cred, so to speak, through getting those certificates and being able to post them in your LinkedIn profile, or share that information on a resume as far as where you got your education, how you got your education. But we do not have any kind of certification exam within the industry that we provide you with that you can then say, yep, here is my certification in a particular topic. Hopefully that helped clear up any muddy waters, but Lori, feel free to chime in if there's anything that can be explained better than how I just did.
I think that's good. Yeah, we've been requested to share some student quotes or student success stories. So I was just looking those up. I guess the one other thing I wanted to share is that about the job experience question is that the practicum is a really great experience. And because you are working that's practicum is what you do after the advanced classes. That's a 8 to 10 week program where you are working with a team of other students to build a real app. And that's the kind of experience I think that employers are looking for. So you can even do more than one practicum in the future. That's something that we are changing. So you will be able to do more than one practicum, and that'll be a great experience. Even if you don't get into the apprenticeship, I will be very open about the fact that the apprenticeship is getting more difficult to get into just because of numbers. We have more and more students, and we don't have more and more openings in the apprenticeship. So that's why we do want to start providing more career support to folks who do complete the practicum. The question about job placement rate for graduates to gain employment. We do not currently have good stats on students, but we have excellent stats on our excellent data. It's the data that we don't have completely on our student graduates, but on our apprentice graduates, it's about 90% in software development jobs. I think the average is earning about $85,000 a year. So that's it for graduates of the apprentice. We are trying to dig into more of that data for our students so that we'll be able to have accurate numbers. With our apprentices, we track everything. With students, we're still honing our tracking mechanisms. And someone asks, could you use your app as a demonstration of your skills to future employers? Absolutely. Yeah. And I would expect by the time, if you are all, and someone else asks about resume and interview questions. If you all are starting intro or advanced, that would mean when you complete the practicum, that's about 8 months from now or so, or 10 months from now. And I will say that Code the Dream is a growing organization. We've changed dramatically since 8 months ago. And I can tell you that in 8 more months, we're going to have a lot more support built out for students who graduate and how we're able to support folks in their career journeys. I was able to find a couple of quotes that someone requested. Oops, I just lost it. But that might be a nice way to end, Mary Alice, unless I don't know if you want to go over anything else.
I think that covers everything. I am going to put in the chat the classes email, so that way if you do have questions that you forgot to ask that you need answered, feel free to reach out. It's a busy time of year right now, so be patient. And if it's, if you don't get an answer within 48 hours, just bear with me and I'll be getting answers out as best as I can. So I've got the email address in the chat now in case you think of anything beyond this Q&A that you need any assistance with.
Great. And I'll share a couple of quotes. Here's one from a person who is currently in our apprenticeship program. Code the Dream has completely changed my life for the better. I'm gaining the education, experience, and knowledge I need to break into the STEAM world. A year ago, I couldn't imagine having been able to build an app completely from scratch. I used to never see people that look like me working in STEM or STEAM fields, but now I can be that person, and I can inspire people who look like me to be that person too. And here's another one. CTD has been wonderful. The care and dedication the staff shows to helping us change our lives is mind-blowing. I am a mom of 4 and I care for my blind mom. College is not an option for me at all. Code the Dream is giving me the tools that will equip me to change my entire family's life. You are not just changing one person's life by training me for a better job. You are helping 7 people. So those are, I'll leave it at that. We have many more quotes, but I'll leave it at those.
Yeah, if you do want to know more about our organization or the people that are a part of it, feel free to find us on LinkedIn, and follow us there. We always have Volunteer of the Month that we post every month, and other social events related to development or related to our program's mission that we share there. So definitely check us out and find us on there for further details.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
I look forward to seeing your applications.